Look out, PJ Asierno. There's a new record holder in men's golf, and he's a rookie. Hello, I'm Anna Gomez.
And I'm Jake Smolinski. Women's volleyball has a series of devastating losses. Will they be able to ace their matchups this week? You're watching LaSalle TV's home for Explorer Athletics, SportsLine.
Welcome to SportsLine. We've got a packed show for you this week as I sit down with junior rower Zach Labarth.
And later we have a respectable amount of highlight footage that we'll be breaking out. And then we're going to talk sports. Lots of sports.
But first, let's take a look at what went down this past week for our athletes. Cross country took a ride to Goodman Campus Course at Lehigh to compete in the Paul Short Run on Saturday. The men's squad took on the Gold 8K race and took 16th out of 38 teams. Blue and gold runner Fran Ferruzzi led the Explorers and came in 82nd place, completing the race in just under 25 minutes. Next across the finish line for LaSalle was Stephen Lewandowski. He placed 97th and also came in under 25 minutes. The women then took on the 6K course, and Caitlin Poez was the first LaSalle star to complete it. She came in 87th place and crossed the finish line in just over 21 minutes. Morgan Zeckley was the next one to clock in, coming in with 135th place with a time just under 22 minutes.
Yeah, and water polo is starting to feel their youth just a little bit, and the growing pains of being a team in their first season reached its head against Penn State on Sunday, October 1st. Despite Jeff Brady and Alex Pitcher each scoring 3 goals apiece and the 8 saves by Owen Llewellyn, the Explorers just couldn't make the offensive push in the fourth quarter. The team trailed for most of the game, but in the fourth they were able to bring the deficit to 1. But they just couldn't pull it out. And their next game is against George Washington out in New Jersey, where they hope to possibly turn things around for the better.
Field hockey topped conference rival VCU Friday afternoon, improving their record to 5-5 overall, 3-1 within the A-10 conference. LaSalle sophomore Logan O started off the scoring with the sole first half goal. Later in the second, sophomore Megan Keto would score her first of the season, and then followed up with an assist on the Explorers' third goal, scored by senior Devin Morocco, her third goal of the season. Goaltender Rachel Hartman allowed only 1 goal on the day, making the final score 3-1 Explorers.
And men's golf played at the Binghamton Invitational on Sunday, October 2nd and Monday, October 3rd in Appalachia, New York. And LaSalle freshman Evan Gaser shot a career-best 2 under 70 in the final round of the Invitational to tie for 16th place. And Gaser's 2 under 142 is a new 36-hole record by an Explorer freshman. His 142 is also the second best 36-hole score in program history, behind John Lorenzo's 139 in 2006. And as a team, LaSalle shot a 4 over 292 in Monday's round to finish in 11th place. And the LaSalle men's golf team will be hosting their next event at North Hills Country Club on Monday, October 10th and Tuesday, October 11th.
The women's volleyball team continued A-10 play on Friday, September 30th against the Davidson Wildcats in a matchup that was anticipated to be very close, and the teams did not disappoint. LaSalle dropped the first set by 11 points after getting off to a slow start and managed to make some progress in set 2, although they ultimately dropped the frame 25-21. Down 2 sets to 0, the Explorers kicked it into high gear, taking set 3 in a thrilling fashion with a 28-26 win, then riding that momentum into the 4th frame with a dominant 11-point win in set 4, reversing the 25-14 scoreline set by the Davidson in the opening set. Breaking from their stupor in the 5th set, the Wildcats came back to reality to hold off LaSalle 15-8 for the 5-set conference victory.
Then on Sunday, October 2nd, undefeated in the conference A-10 rivals, VCU came to the Tom Gola. I got the chance to shoot some footage, so check it out. So VCU, obviously, quite possibly the favorite in this matchup, but you know what? This was looking like a chance for LaSalle women's volleyball to, make some changes. And here we go. We had some serious play coming from Catherine Egerton right there. 2 just straight up the kills on that, but also Brianna Davis coming in with 7 kills, Jennifer Edwards with 11, Devin Cora. But this is actually one of the most brutal plays. Look at this. just hammer hooks it over the top. This is during the second set after they dropped the first. LaSalle was struggling, and right there, this is one of the most disappointing points I've ever seen. LaSalle the entire time, nobody knew what was going on. Look at Phoebe Cook, just spinning in circles. Nobody knows. But to break down in slow motion, that serve looked like it was going to be a direct kill. Somehow managed to return it. Then she just lays straight out for it, hooks it over. We even on our part, just the libero just like going for it, and then finally the huge spike, and it just doesn't come through, and it's just showing a lack of focus, and also VCU's direct just attention to detail on this. And you know what? The thing is, it just looked like we just weren't playing a complete game, and it honestly just broke my heart. So, it kills a person, you know. So anyway, yeah, rough.
That is pretty rough, Jake. Thanks. Men's tennis looked to build their momentum as the Explorers took on Northern Kentucky at Germantown Cricket Club on Friday, September 30th. The men were coming off a big win against U Sciences back on September 13th. Unfortunately for the Explorers, things did not go as planned as they dropped 5 out of their 6 singles and 2 out of 3 doubles. Sophomore Francesco Maury was the lone point scorer for LaSalle as he defeated Northern Kentucky's Mate Virag in the first singles. Other notable performances from LaSalle include junior Joe Diorio and freshman Braden Ward. The duo defeated Northern Kentucky's Blaine Carr and Chris Murray by a score of 6-4 in third doubles. Northern Kentucky's Court Clark was essential to the Norse's victory, recording a win in both a singles and doubles match. The 5-1 loss was LaSalle's first of the year and brings the Explorers' record to an even 1-1 on the year. Now switching over to men's soccer, St. Louis paid a visit to LaSalle on Saturday, the first of A10 play. Selena BMAC has the coverage.
Billikens for their first Atlantic 10 game of the season on Saturday night at McCarthy Stadium. This was the first time LaSalle has played St. Louis since the 2014 A10 tournament. The Explorers were 5-4 and on a 3-game losing streak going into this game, while the Billikens were 1-4-3. The Blue and Gold tried to break their losing streak but could not overtake their A10 rivals, falling 2-1 to St. Louis. Both teams played a physical game, combining for 2 red cards and 6 yellow cards. Things were not going the Explorers' way for most of the game. The Billikens were able to slip a goal past goalie Mike Kirk early on to make it 1-0. Connor Nichols then tied it at 1 after scoring a goal for LaSalle in the 39th minute of the first half. Unfortunately, the Explorers could not take the lead, and eventually the Billikens scored again on a penalty kick to make it a 2-1 game. LaSalle tried their best to tie it up again, outshooting St. Louis 13-3 in the second half, but could not make a comeback. After yet another loss, LaSalle will look to break their 4-game losing streak against Rhode Island this Saturday. For SportsLine, I'm Selena BMAC.
Women's soccer kicked off A10 play with a big win against UMass on September 29th. In the rain, the two teams battled for over 100 minutes before Macy Bauer scored on a breakaway to secure the win for LaSalle over UMass, giving them their first win in conference play. And the women returned to action on Sunday, October 2nd, when they traveled to North Carolina to take on Davidson. The Explorers outshot the Wildcats 13-8, but it was not enough as neither team was able to find the net. You know what? Sometimes it happens after 2 overtime periods. The game concluded in a scoreless draw.
Wow. You know, this is the second game in a row women's soccer has gone into overtime. The first one, they split, they had a win, and then the second time, it didn't go in their favor. Yeah. Or it went better than dropping a loss, but we'd like to see a win over over a tie. Yeah. Getting into our headlines, our first big headline is that men's baseball has a new assistant coach in Rob Vivaro. He is a 2009-2013 graduate of Wesley College, where he recorded 120 wins with a BA in kinesiology. So he's right up in doing what he wants to do. He coached at Paul VI in New Jersey, where he sent 5 players to D1 schools, which is
not too shabby.
Not too shabby. He was also an amateur coach for Mankato Moondogs that brought their record to 46-26. So it's a pretty good record.
Yeah, I could definitely dig that.
Yeah. And the next is, you want to take that, Jake?
Yeah, sure. And so then, once again, Cheryl Reeve, 2016 WNBA Coach of the Year, reported on, we talked about it earlier because she was on the Olympic coaching staff for the gold medal. And you know what? previously, which
she is. She was decided. She earned the WNBA Coach of the Year award, which is huge, huge, huge for LaSalle. She previously earned it in 2011. Class of 1988. She's coaches for the Minnesota Lynx right now, where she's recorded 155 wins. That's huge. And this first season, she recorded 13 wins in one winning streak, which is the most in the league.
We can
ever.
use that right now. Why don't we hire her?
I'd like to see that. I don't know. I think her paycheck's a little too high.
Just a little bit.
We also have a big headline for Larissa Zambelli, who we just talked about.
Yeah.
She's named A10 Co-Defensive Player of the Week, where she recorded 8 saves in the past 2 games alone, which we just reported on.
Yeah.
She's just a phenom. Oh my goodness.
She's young too, right? Like she's only a sophomore, right?
She's a junior.
Oh,
she's a red shirt, so we're gonna have her for another 2 years after this, which is great.
I am psyched because you know what? We need some more just people holding it down, you know. And in women's soccer, we've had iconic LaSalle men's team goalies, but maybe this is Zambelli's time to shine and make herself one of the classics.
Exactly. And more on her and marquee matchup. Kyle McIntosh is going to talk about her later. But that takes us to our first break. When we come back, I've got a really solid interview with Zach LaBarth. Stick around. Welcome back. Now, we didn't report on it, but men's and women's rowing opened up their season at the Roundabout Regatta this past weekend, and we had some really big plays happen. They actually, both the men's and women's V8 teams, boats, earned first place, which has never unprecedented for, especially in an opener for men's and women's rowing. This is huge. So because of that, I decided to sit down with a junior rower. His name is Zach LaBarth. He actually was not on the V8 boat. He has an injury right now, but more on it as we go into this interview, so check it out. Hello, I'm Anna Gomez, and welcome to this week's edition of On the Sidelines. I'm here with a junior rower, Zach LaBarth, who is just opened up his season. Zach, welcome up. So I just want to get right into it. How did your season opener turn out?
Well, we went to the Roundabout Regatta, which is the first time we've actually been there. And we had 2 men's 8s entered and a women's 8. And the women's 8 won, the men's V8 won, and the boat that I was in, that I was stroking, we got, I think, 3rd. So we had a pretty good season opener. We were all happy about it.
Very cool. And I saw on Twitter you had some bright pink shirts.
Yeah.
Them.
Yeah. So we switched to wearing shirts when we race now. Usually they're white, but with Breast Cancer Month for October, we got pink, which was pretty cool. There's a bunch of pink shirts just running around with a bunch of flamingos.
And is that going to change up after October?
Yeah, I think it's an October thing. So I think once this October's finished, we'll go back to the white jerseys.
Very cool.
So.
Very cool. And who was coxing this weekend?
For my boat, it was Elijah, and for the V8, it was Grant Maddock.
Okay, very cool. And so how was it like at the Roundabout? Because usually you're on Schuylkill for a lot of events.
Yeah, so the Roundabout is literally just a roundabout around the island. So it wasn't the most interesting race in terms of turns and all that kind of stuff, but it was still fun to get out in the water again after being away for all summer. So we were all happy we were out there.
Very cool. And what are your plans for the season? Because you started out strong.
Right. I mean, we're always looking to get faster, always looking to improve on something. All the guys on the team know that we have to go out in the water every day for practice and work hard, put the hard work in. So we're just going to build off of this win and go look to beat some of those faster crews like Drexel, Temple, St. Joe's. Like, that's our main goal, is to get to where those crews are.
And you guys have a lot of events where you're versing other Philadelphia schools.
Yeah, we most of our races are on the Schuylkill, like the big ones, the medal races, and we see Drexel, Temple, St. Joe's, Villanova, all those big city schools. We see them a lot, so it's always fun to race against them, especially for me, because I have a lot of friends from high school that all row at those schools too, so it's nice to line up against them. Yeah.
So you just talked about how you had some high school, some friends that you race now. Another interesting fact is that you have a brother that's also on the crew team.
Yeah, my brother's he came in as a freshman this year, so he's on the crew team. And the boat I was in this weekend was actually the boat he was in, so I got to row with him for his first college race, which was pretty cool. That's
so cool. Yeah. And your family was there?
Yeah, my mom and dad came up and made the trip. So it was one big family reunion.
And have you raced with your brother before at all?
No, when I was in high school, he hadn't started rowing yet. So then when I graduated is when he started his junior year. So I went to his races, I watched him whenever I could, but I didn't get to row with him until he came to LaSalle.
Oh, that's exciting. So you just had your big first race with him.
Yeah.
I love that.
It was pretty cool.
I see a potential for a LaBarth rowing dynasty at LaSalle.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, because your sister rows too, right?
Yeah, my sister, she rowed for Loyola. That's where she went for undergrad, and then she came to LaSalle to get her master's in speech pathology. But she's the one that got the rowing train going in our family.
But since you started this new rowing recruitment train with your brother, one of the challenges, I think, with rowing team, especially because of the way that LaSalle because we're not on a river, I think it's kind of difficult for students to sort of imagine how LaSalle has a rowing team.
Right.
So could you maybe talk to me about what is that like? What's the
So
recruitment
we have a boathouse. We shared the boathouse with Fairmount, which is on Boathouse Row, and whenever we have recruits, we, in the winter, because we usually can't get on the water, we bring them to the erg room, and most recruits know what the erg room is, what goes into that. But during the fall, like early fall, when it's still warm, and then in the spring we have recruits, we take them down to the river and they get to see where we practice and what we do. And a lot of the recruits we've gotten have been from the area, so they've rowed on the Schuylkill, whether it be they're practicing or they're racing for some of the races in high school. So that's it's nice to get kids that know what it's like to row in the Schuylkill, but again, it's also nice to get kids that don't know and they get to experience it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Now, is there a strategy for rowing the Schuylkill versus any other river?
I mean, in my personal opinion, I used to row at Lake Lenape, which is where St. Augustine Prep rows, which is my high school. That's just like a big lake. So rowing on the river is a lot better for me, I feel like, because you get to row against the current and with the current. So you get that different aspect of what the water could feel like at any race. So.
Very cool. And I do just want to quickly ask you about maybe some kind of silly anecdote that's happened on any race that you've had. Last year, Jake Smolinski, SportsLine reporter, visited the Schuylkill River to try to catch a race, and we couldn't even catch it. We missed every single LaSalle race. So I want to see if you have any sort of similar story.
So, I mean, with that, the race crew's different just because there's event. It's kind of like track. There's events, and you go off at a certain time. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, for some people, it's kind of boring if they're not really into the sport, because they're just watching random boats go by until the boat that they're trying to watch is there. So, but we don't. Crazy stories usually go just maybe we get on the water late. We have to just book it all the way up to the starting line or stuff like that. That's happened before. So that's always a nice warm-up, is when you're sprinting to the finish line to race again. Yeah.
I love it. Well, I wish you the best of luck. I do, real quick fire question. What is your favorite fall pastime?
Favorite I like pumpkin picking.
Pumpkin picking.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things. Yeah.
I like it.
So.
Well, I want to thank you for coming out. Zach LaBarth for On the Sidelines. I'm Anna Gomez.
Awesome to hear from Zach LaBarth. Really articulate guy, and you know what? It's awesome to hear about the pink shirts. Sal, keeping it classy, supporting breast cancer awareness, not breast cancer. But yeah, so very, very solid. Yeah,
he had a lot to say, and it was very, very interesting to hear from him. My favorite thing about Zach LaBarth is that not only does he have a younger brother, but he also has a sister that also rows. Rowers galore in the LaBarth family. I'm in love with it. I think that's great. Yeah. But anyway.
Yes. So that brings us now to our next break. And when we're back, we have a marquee matchup with Kyle. So let's see what happens. Yeah, let's just roll right into it. I can go hard. I'll look at that. And welcome back. There is plenty of LaSalle sports action this upcoming week, so let us highlight some of the games going on ahead. So anyway, field hockey, they have a rematch set against St. Joe's on Friday, October 7th, just 2 weeks before St. Joe's shut out LaSalle in a 2-0 battle.
Men's golf hosts the Explorers Match Play Championship at Northern Hills Country Club starting Monday, October 10th.
And coming off their double OT tie against Davidson, women's soccer will take on George Washington and then take on local A10 rivals St. Joe's. SportsLine reporter Kyle McIntosh has the scoop in this week's marquee matchup, so check it out.
Hello, I'm Kyle McIntosh with this week's marquee matchup. A key Atlantic 10 matchup between your LaSalle Explorers and the St. Joseph Hawks this Sunday, October 9th at 1 p.m. This will be a tough game, with the Hawks being 8-1-2 on the season so far, while the Explorers are currently 3-6-1. If there ever was a time to beat a great team like the Hawks, then the time is now, as St. Joseph is coming off an intense match that ended in a double overtime draw against Fordham. Both the Explorers and the Hawks are seeking to improve their A10 conference ranking, with St. Joseph's ranked 3rd and LaSalle is not far behind, ranked 5th. One of the key players to get it done on Sunday is sophomore forward Macy Bauer, the only player who was able to score in the past 3 games. She is the highest scoring player for the Explorers with 3 goals and 14 attempts. If the blue and gold is going to leave McCarthy Stadium with a win, then they'll need Bauer to continue making accurate shots and scoring some crucial goals. Another key player for our Explorers is redshirt junior goalkeeper Larissa Zambelli, who just received the A10 Co-Defensive Player of the Week award thanks to her 8 saves last week alone and 3 shutouts this season. It's really important for Bauer to keep her momentum going and take advantage of St. Joseph's defensive weaknesses. The Hawks haven't recorded a single shutout victory this season, but they have a high-powered offensive strategy, one that Zambelli will have her hands full with. It is important that the Explorers establish great positioning on the defensive end in order to relieve some of that pressure so Zambelli can do what she does best. St. Joseph hasn't lost a game since August, so it will be important to stop their forwards from taking too many shots on goal, as their strategy appears to completely overwhelm their opponents. Things look good for the Explorers, however, as they were able to beat St. Joseph twice last season, winning one of those games at the A10 Championship. As long as the Explorers can execute their game plan effectively and continue to play really good defense, they will remind the Hawks what it was like to lose to them twice last season. Looks like the A10 conference is going to be packed with great games this season. For SportsLine, I'm Kyle McIntosh.
Thanks, Kyle. And with that, let's jump into the other big games happening in the week. In the SportsLine Apogee segment, Jake's Picks of the Week.
Soccer versus St. Joe's, October 9th at McCarthy. You know what? Always going to play at home. And you know what? Hopefully coming off a win against struggling George Washington. That's a good sign. But St. Joe's is a brutal team going overtime 5 of the last 11 games and didn't allow the opposing team to score. Last year, we beat them twice. But do we have the same strengths? However, what we're going to really need, though, is defensive strategy, as Kyle was talking about. And that is really trying to, don't keep on putting Larissa Zambelli on the spot. She can do a lot of saves. She's great. I love her. I love you, Larissa. But please, defense, don't leave her hanging out to dry. And that brings me to pick number 2. And that is men's water polo versus Villanova at Villanova on Saturday, October 8th. And you know what? It's going to be intense because this was LaSalle's first win, actually first game, and they won it 23-5. And that win was definitely not taken lightly by any of our Philadelphia rivals. But the thing is, though, Villanova, they aren't that good of a team. But what they don't have this time is the same crazy home crowd coming out for the first ever water polo team. But you know what? I want another Salem International. You know what? I want to fight. I want blowouts. I want 26 players ejected. We're young. Let's make a statement. Exactly. So that brings me to pick number 3, men's golf. Explorers Match Play Championship at North Hills Country Club, October 10th and 11th. I'm excited. You should be excited too. PJ Osierno, this hot new, buck-hot shot kid, freshman guy, he comes in.
Evan Gaser?
Yeah, that guy. Evan Gaser. He's taking the club and he's just smacking it across everybody's face. And you know what I say? Keep on bringing on the small numbers. And you know what? Home tourneys are a big deal. And you know what? Explorers know North Hills. Let's let these young guys really start to step in, make some statements. That's what it's all about, I think, this week on Picks of the Week. Let's all make a statement. And that actually just about wraps it up for us this week. And if you can't make it out to see the marquee matchup, be sure to, maybe tune in next week for our coverage and keep up with this weekend's other sporting events by, listening. GoExplorers.com or check out this week's edition of the Collegian if you like print.
Thanks, Jake. Also check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/LaSalleTV. We welcome you to send us your thoughts and suggestions there.
So for Selena and our entire SportsLine team, I'm Jacob Wiley Smolinski.
And I'm Anna Marie Gomez. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you at the game.